Hello and welcome back. So in the last episode, we were discussing on validation testing and system testing. So today we are going to discuss on the art of debugging. So software testing is a process that can be systematically planned and specified. So test case design can be conducted as a strategy that can be defined and results can be evaluated against prescribed expectations. So this is the planned and systematic way of software testing. So debugging occurs as a consequence of successful testing. So when the testing is success only, we can say that debugging is carried out. That is, when a test case uncovers an error, debugging is a process that results in the removal of the same error. Okay. So debugging is not testing but often occurs as a consequence of testing. So going into the figure, the debugging process begins with the execution of a test case. Okay, results are assessed and lack of correspondence between expected and actual performance is encountered. So the debugging process attempts to match symptom with cause. Okay, so we'll be matching a symptom and a cause for a problem to occur, thereby leading to error correction. Okay, so here we have test cases and we are giving the test cases into the execution. Then the results are assessed and the expected and actual performance are encountered, and the debugging process attempts to match through additional tests, then identified causes, corrections, regression tests, etc. Okay. So the debugging process will usually have one of two outcomes. The cause will be found and corrected. So what is the cause for the error will be found out and will be corrected at the same time. And the cause will not be found. There will be a case where we have not found the cause. In that case, the person performing debugging may suspect a cause, design a test case to help validate that suspicion and work toward error correction in an iterative fashion. A few characteristics of bugs include the symptom and the cause may be geographically remote, which means symptom may appear in one part of the program while the cause may actually be located at a site that is far removed from that part. Now the symptom may disappear when another error is corrected. Okay, the symptom may disappear when, but it may be disappear temporarily because it disappears because we have corrected some other errors. Then the symptom may actually be caused by non-errors, that is round-off inaccuracies, and the symptom may be caused by human error that is not easily traced. Sometimes the coding in the program or like that. Then the symptom may be a result of timing problems rather than processing problems, and it may be difficult to accurately reproduce input conditions. For example, a real-time application in which input ordering is indeterminate. And the symptom may be intermittent. Intermittent means non-continuous, and this is particularly common in embedded systems that couple hardware and software separately. And the system may be due to causes that are distributed across a number of tasks running on different processes. Now the debugging strategies, three debugging strategies have been proposed: brute force, backtracking, and cause elimination. First, we will go on to brute force. See, actually, the brute force category of debugging is probably the most common and least efficient method for isolating the cause of a software error. We apply brute force debugging methods when all else fails. So this is the least least efficient methods that we apply it only when all the debugging methods fails. So brute force methods can be partitioned into at least three categories: debugging with a storage dump, debugging according to the common suggestion, and debugging with automated debugging tools. So storage dump is actually a static picture of the program showing the state of the program at only one instant in time. Okay, so it shows only one instant at time. So it is the static picture of the program. So we cannot change the program in the storage dump. Actually, a memory dump actually. And we can perform it according to common suggestions. Like if everybody is having a common suggestion, we can perform the debugging. Then we can use automated debugging tools also. Now, the second category strategy, that is backtracking, is a fairly common debugging approach that can be used successfully in small programs. Beginning at the site where a symptom has been uncovered, the source code is traced backward manually until the cause is found. Then, unfortunately, as the number of source line increases, the number of potential backward paths may become unmanageably large. Then automated debugging tools. Each of these debugging approaches can be supplemented with debugging tools that can be provide you with semi-automated support as debugging strategies are attempted. Okay. So integrated development environments provide a way to capture some of the language specific predetermined errors. See, actually for automated debugging, we have so many approaches available. In that, first one is the IDEs, which provide a way to capture some of the language specific predetermined errors, and like missing end of statement characteristics, undefined variables, okay, without any compilation itself. Then we have a wide variety of debugging compilers, dynamic debugging aids, automatic test case generators, and cross-reference mapping tools are also available as automated debugging tools. We have our next topic, that is maintenance. After testing, we have to go through a stage in software process that is known as maintenance. So software is released to end users, and within days, bug reports filter back to the software engineering organization. This is the formal technique, right? We know that when we release an software to the end user, within days they will check the software and they will report the software engineering organization about the bugs in that. So within weeks, one class of users indicate that the software must be changed so that it can accommodate the special needs of their environment, the customer's environment. And within months, another corporate group who wanted nothing to do with the software when it was released now recognizes that it may provide them with unexpected benefit. So they will need a few enhancements to make it work in their world also. So maintenance is an important factor even after weeks, even after months, or even after years. So maintainable software exhibits effective modularity. It makes use of design patterns that allow ease of understanding. So effective modularity means we can maintain the software in modules also. It has been constructed using well-defined coding standards and conventions, leading to source code that is self-documenting and understandable. Only when it is self-documented and understandable, only whoever, who the people behind, other than who the people behind, other people can also maintain the software. Now it has undergone a variety of quality assurance techniques that have uncovered potential maintenance problems before the software is released. And it has been created by software engineers who recognize that they may not be around when changes must be made. So actually the software engineers design the software in the recognition that if they are also not around, changes can also be implemented into the software. We have the next topic, that is software supportability. So in order to effectively support industry grade software, organization must be capable of making the corrections, adaptations, and enhancements that are part of the maintenance activity. Now, but in addition, the organization must provide other important support activities, which actually include operational support, end user support, and re-engineering activities over the complete life cycle of the software, which we'll be focusing on re-engineering in the further topics. So the capability of supporting a software system over its whole product life, that is known as software supportability. And this implies satisfying any necessary needs or requirements. And also the provision of equipment, support infrastructure, additional software facilities, manpower, or any other resources required to maintain the software operational and capable of satisfying its function. So this is all about today's topic. Thank you so much. In the next episode, we will be discussing on re-engineering.